Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7970.
WNXX, Jackson, KNXX, Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers, LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. I predict I say Monday at least twice over the next 2 hours. It is Tuesday. That means we're brought to you by the folks over at Pluckers. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Hope everybody had a safe and awesome holiday weekend, and that your work week is off to a good start here on this Tuesday. I'm fired up to be here and appreciate you hanging out with us for the next couple of hours. Thanks to Matt Musso for hanging in there on Friday as I got up and enjoyed a little time away playing some golf up in Shreveport. But we're back and ready to roll because LSU is still playing baseball, which this time last week we thought they were. They had one win in the bank there in the SEC tournament, but we couldn't be sure. The Tigers got the job done over in Hoover. We'll talk about that with Glenn West coming up at 1:30. I got to look at LSU's bracket as well. The Tigers have a new punter they've added in the transfer portal. What did I think the selection committee did yesterday? And The Athletic had a really cool piece up re-ranking the football recruiting classes of 2020 now that that's kind of in the rearview mirror. And there are a couple of numbers in there that really fascinated me, so I want to get to some of that. But let's start with LSU baseball in the SEC tournament and what we saw over that week in Hoover. Mission accomplished. That's all that matters to me. I was driving around the golf course on Friday, Saturday, Sunday this weekend and had a bunch of people going, oh, what do you think? What do you take? What do you think about this game? And I'm going, guys, I really don't have a vested interest in the outcomes of these games. I actually would have preferred LSU to lose on Saturday. And honestly, if they were going to lose, they might as well lose on a technicality. That's the best way to lose because you're not screwing up to do it. You just kind of got unlucky. But they did get the win on Saturday, and they played into Sunday and had a chance to win the Southeastern Conference tournament. Here's my deal with it. And I'm not telling you it's right or wrong. I'm just telling you the way that I feel about that tournament. Your job is to go there and accomplish a mission. Whether you're trying to make sure you get into the field, whether you're trying to secure a top 16, whether you're trying to secure a top 8, or whether you're just trying to get some guys some innings before you come home and get ready for the NCAA tournament. That's the way I think about it. Because there's so much evidence to suggest that the way that you play in Hoover doesn't necessarily carry over to the next week. Y'all know the first couple of examples I'm going to go to, but I'll get to them anyway. Like last year, LSU didn't play very well in Hoover. Paul Skeens got hit around a little bit by Arkansas. They pulled him out early. LSU's offense kind of sputtered against A&M's mediocre pitching staff, and you went 1-2 and went home. And considering that the Auburn games and the Mississippi State games were not that far in the rearview mirror, like LSU wasn't playing awesome baseball. They showed up in the regional, in the super like a house on fire. They were incredible. 2 years ago, Ole Miss had basically a must-win Tuesday game against Vanderbilt. You got to win this game to get in. They lost 3-1. No offense. Couldn't get it done. Had to sit at home in Oxford. And really, the only reason they got to play is because the selection committee felt bad for Mike Bianco and wanted to put him in his last hurrah before he got fired. And they got in and won it. 3 years ago, Mississippi State got run-ruled in back-to-back games. Run-ruled. Not once, twice. And went and won the national championship. I'll give you the inverse. 2010, LSU's coming off a national championship. They blitzed through that conference tournament and won it, played awesome. They went out to UCLA. It took a Trey Watkins walk-off to get by UC Irvine, the 3 seed, and they didn't win another game. 2014, LSU went through and won the SEC tournament. Lost to Houston the next week. Like, trying to correlate it too much is probably a fool's errand. It's probably wasted time. You might play good in Hoover, not so good in the regional, you might switch it. So my goal for LSU this past week, make sure you win on Tuesday. Try to separate yourself from those 13 and 17s. Then make sure you get your two guys a start. You got Holman and Jump a start. Play some baseball, which they did. Get some at-bats. And whether or not you win or lose, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time thinking about it. I know we put on our purple and gold and you turn on the TV and you want LSU to win. And they're playing Tony Vitello and you don't like him and you want to win the conference tournament. I wasn't that invested in the outcome of the game. LSU went over there, got their two guys a start, won some games, secured a 2 seed, which we talked about last week that I wasn't thinking much about, but now you put yourself in a better chance to host a super regional if you can get through your regional. And you got a lot of at-bats. I thought that some of the things that we saw over the weekend were encouraging because obviously you'd rather play good than bad. I'm not going to suggest that LSU's some team that nobody can handle right now. But you'd like to see the guys feel better about themselves than they did 5-6 weeks ago, and they certainly do. And I think the ones that I would point to first would be Michael Braswell, who's kind of taking the reins in the leadoff spot. He's been there for 8 straight games. And over those 8 games, Michael Braswell is getting on base at a .463 clip, 46%. He scored 11 runs in those 8 games. He's got 6 walks and a hit by pitch over that time, but he's also hit .352 over those 8 games, and he showed a little pop, hit a couple of home runs, driving the ball down the line for a double. Like, he's done a nice job at what was a hole. Doesn't mean he's not about to go 0 for 10 with 4 strikeouts, but they feel like they've got a guy who's a veteran, who's seeing pitches well right now, who's batting in a very comfy spot in the lineup in front of Tommy White and Jared Jones, and is doing a heck of a job. Now, Stephen Milam has taken that freshman wall and pounded right through it. He got 10 hits in Hoover, had 2 massive home runs, as you well know. And he's playing better than he was midway through SEC play. You know that he started off really well this year, kind of won that job from Josh Pearson, stopped the platoon. But midway through SEC play, he was hitting about 220 in league play. Like, he was fighting it big time. Well, no longer. He's seeing some SEC pitching, and he's a different dude than he has been all season long. And I think we can probably go ahead and shut the book on that Jared Jones swoon, if you want to call it that. He's homered in 4 straight games, and that power stroke looks as good as ever. And even if, after 4 home runs in 4 SEC games, you'd like to look and go, oh, well, Jared Jones just bashes midweek pitching. Well, guess what? You're playing a team the level of a lot of your midweek games. Now, their pitcher may be a little bit better. But Wofford, they could come in here on Tuesday. You have 3 seeds parading through here. You see where all the 3 seeds are from? They're all from Louisiana. So I thought that the guys offensively really did a good job. And quite honestly, what you saw in Hoover is probably the blueprint for LSU in a regional. It's Jump and Holman dominating, which they did. Those 2 guys back on Tuesday and Wednesday, 13 innings of 1-run baseball, and you win those games comfortably. And then your offense better show up. And you had to score double digits against South Carolina in 2 straight games, but they did it. And think about how a regional unfolds. By the time you get to Sunday, like, sometimes it takes double-digit runs. Teams can be real low on pitching by Sunday. So kind of how you saw them play is kind of the blueprint for what you're going to see this weekend. Now, I think everybody probably wants me to comment on the controversial call at the end of that South Carolina game, got Jay Toss and the whole deal. And again, here's my thoughts on it. It did not have me all fired up and full of rage because I just wasn't that emotionally invested in the outcome of the game, win or lose. I know that sounds nuts to a lot of y'all, but that's how I'm wired. I'm here to win a regional. I'm here to win a super. I'm here to get to Omaha and win the whole thing. That's why I go watch baseball practices in October. It's not to make sure they win the SEC tournament. But I thought that the way that the post-game press conference went and the explanation we were given that everything was executed to the rule book, which I'll be honest, I didn't know all those rules. Like I didn't know that the catcher couldn't step on the plate or come out in front, or that you were talking about a balk. I watch a lot of baseball. That doesn't come up very often. So it was being explained to me, but like it was likely being explained to you, and they said everything was done correctly. Okay, I'll take their word for it. It sounded right. The issue is the same thing that Jay communicated, and I don't disagree with Jay Johnson at all here. He said they did not make that call on the field. It was made not seconds, minutes later. And you're telling me it's not a reviewable play. Well, wait a second. That doesn't add up. If this play that unfolded is not reviewable, then I need to go with what you said on the field. And I can't tell you personally, me, Hunt Palmer, how I would feel if that happened in a regional. It would probably be a lot different. I haven't experienced that. It would probably be a lot different. I was sitting there looking at the TV on Saturday going, well, if we lose, I don't really need to pitch 9 more innings tomorrow anyway. Everybody on the staff's gotten a look, hit the ball really well, won some games against regional host teams in top 8s. Like, I've seen enough. And if I'm going to lose, I'd rather lose like that than 13-0, where you didn't swing the bats worth a flip and couldn't get anybody out, and you had to go home. I'd rather lose on, well, look at this stupid play that happened. So that's just my personal emotional tie to it. I think that Jay has a real point, and I think that, the outcome was probably correct based on the action on the field. It just, the process which they used to get there probably was flawed, and that, to me, would really matter in a league game or certainly a regional game. In this game, I'm going, well, live and learn. But then Stephen Milam cracked a homer and got his jersey ripped off, and Jay got to run on the field, and everybody that spent the dollars and cents to go over to Hoover, who certainly have a different perspective from me, having spent your hard-earned money to go out there and watch your team play. It was a great day to be an LSU Tiger. And then I thought they battled their butts off on Sunday. I hope that, I'm glad, and Jay brings up a great point, that they were able to get off their feet. The administration supplied them with a plane, and they were able to fly home. And you're going to get a day off yesterday and pretty much a day off today. They're going to do some cage work, I think, and then you're a couple days away from traveling at this point. So it's busy, but they are 20-year-old kids. So we hope they recoup, reset, and can get out there and take care of their business coming up this weekend in Chapel Hill. Our baseball breakdowns all season long are brought to you by Pluckers, as are our Tuesday shows. 2 locations, Nicholson just south of campus and Bluebonnet in front of the Mall of Louisiana. We come back, we'll hear from Jay Johnson, the head coach of the Tigers, met with the media after the selection committee did their work on the reveal yesterday. So we'll do some of that coming up next.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Maybe safety is a big issue in the bathroom for someone that you love that may be aging and wants to stay at home. And David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets are happy to help with some of those types of things. They can do non-slip floors, I should say. They can do guardrails, handrails around toilet, shower, bathtub areas. They can do benches in the shower. They can do walk-in tubs. All of that may be of paramount importance when you're talking about safety in the bathroom for someone that's aging in your life. That sounds like something you'd really like to hear more about. David Duvall and his team are happy to do a free consultation with you. You go to the website, onebathandclosets.com. You can see pictures of their great work. You can read testimonials from their satisfied clients, and you can get that free consultation right there on the top of the screen. It's David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets. Check them out online, onebathandclosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Jimmy Ott and Charles Henniger for the Wednesday edition of Live at Lunch, live at Los Reyes Mexican Grill on Lee, just off of Nicholson, right across from Mike Anderson's. Live at Lunch, live at Los Reyes, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Wednesday at 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Glenn West coming up here in about 15 minutes. We'll be talking a little bit more baseball with him. I want to hear from Jay Johnson. He met with the media yesterday for about 30 minutes after the selection show had aired and had a lot of, I thought, interesting things to say about where his team sits right now. The first bite we'll hear is Jay talking about what he really likes about his team exiting the SEC tournament.
We have a mindset relative to confidence and belief that is stronger than it's been, with this team. And they had to win to earn it, and they did. They've won a lot lately. Having 40 wins before the NCAA tournament starts, that's a good accomplishment. I think they have a ton of confidence, so that makes them hard to deal with. I think we have a brand of baseball now that they have an identity as a team, relative to really good starting pitching. I think the real positive about the SEC tournament was, I know we had 2 games where we gave up a lot of runs, but when we needed to get zeros in the back half of those 2 games against South Carolina, we absolutely did. And then yesterday, that's #1. And we held them to 4 runs. I think the at-bats have certainly gotten better. I think we've played very good defense. I feel like we have an identity and we have the confidence, and that's probably what makes us tough to play.
I think all of that encapsulated is exactly right. This team, I don't believe, could have been a very confident bunch at 3-12. I believe that has flipped. And it's some in part to Jumpin' Holman. It's some in part to the sizzling 2 weeks that Tommy White had. It's some about the emergence of Stephen Milam and his production that you didn't necessarily have for the first half. Griffin Herring certainly gives this team an edge as well. And I think that is helpful. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's vital or even like important. And maybe that's crazy. Because, look, you give up a 4 spot in the first inning, like everybody's going to feel a little wobbly. But, I just think that this team's in a better spot mentally than they were 5-6 weeks ago. And that may be an obvious thing to say, but I think the vibes will be really, really good if they're leading or if they fall behind because of what they were able to do in this tournament. You talked about getting some zeros late against South Carolina. That's true. They hung zeros in the 7th, 8th, and 9th of that game back on Thursday. And then you look at the game that they played on Saturday, and they did get zeros in the 7th, 8th, and 9th of that game as well before the weird play there in the 10th that netted South Carolina a run. So I thought that was correct as well. I do believe that they have an identity in that starting pitching and Griffin Herring, and then an offense that's getting a little bit better. So I agree with all of that from Jay Johnson. The question then was asked, do y'all have another gear?
There's always another gear, and I think we're well positioned to hit that. I think what my hope is that they utilize all the experience they've gotten, the great start to the season, the difficulty in the middle, the overcoming the difficulty, the great play late, to position us to play our best when our best is needed. And I think the good part about being in the league, the opposite part of just having a super regional caliber team every time you take the field, is there's nothing from this point forward that we will have not seen. And I think there's a lot of benefit in that.
I completely agree with that too. Wofford is not as good as the teams that LSU saw week in and week out in the SEC. North Carolina, although they are the highest rated seed that LSU was eligible to go play, that's not a gear up from Arkansas. It's not a gear up from Texas A&M. It's not a gear up from Tennessee. It's just not. They're a good team, and we'll talk about them the rest of the week. But this is business as usual when you take the field against them. So I don't know about another gear, but I think LSU is positioned in a way that they could take care of business in this regional. Jay Johnson spoke about the draw that they got on Monday morning.
Obviously, you're talking about great teams. I believe Carolina won the ACC. Wofford just won their conference tournament. I know that they played 7 games this past week to accomplish that feat. So, it's a team that has toughness to it. And congratulations to Long Island. I don't know anything about them, but their enthusiasm when they were announced, that always sticks out to me. Been at programs, where that's a big day when you get that automatic bid as a mid-major that's a one-bid league. So playing 3 championship teams. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and so we were curious where LSU would be sent. I was kind of thinking maybe Santa Barbara would be the spot. We talked about potentially going out to Oregon State because they seem to always pair Oregon State and LSU together. It's just crazy. I don't know if I would call it a coincidence. It just has been that way a good bit, and I thought that was the chance. I thought potentially Arizona was a possibility because of Jay Johnson. I thought potentially that NC State was an option because of the Tommy White storyline there, but it ends up that it's North Carolina, and Jay spoke about kind of the level of respect he has for the Tar Heels.
I have great respect for their program. Much like LSU relative to, there was a stretch there with Omaha trips. They were running around Omaha a lot. Mike Fox was the head coach there, and Scott Forbes is the head coach now and was the associate head coach then. And you think about all the big league players that they've had, it's one of the best brands in the sport. So I think it's awesome.
And they've faded from that a little bit. I mean, there was a real heyday there right around 2012, 13, 14. Like in 2013, I can tell you that clearly the 3 teams that had separated themselves from the pack over the course of May and into June were LSU, Vanderbilt, and North Carolina. Vanderbilt got upset in their regional by Michigan, and LSU did see North Carolina in the losers bracket up there, and North Carolina won that game. But that was really the heyday of those Fox teams, and they haven't quite been that consistent. But this team looks good. The ACC is a good league. It's not as good as the SEC, but it's a good league, and for North Carolina to win it, that's an impressive go. So the question always revolves around pitching and how you're going to use your pitching staff, and LSU had some decisions to make entering the SEC tournament on short rest, and now all of a sudden you turn around and you're on longer rest than normal. So we spoke about what that means for Gage Jump and Luke Holman.
I think it's good. It's needed because, those are workhorse-type pitchers. And the best teams I've had have workhorse-type pitchers. Just thinking about the Omaha teams, Nathan Bannister, Bobby Dahlbeck in 16, Chase Sill, Seth Garrett Irvin in 21, obviously Paul Skeens, Ty Floyd, and 23. So they fit that. And, I've won a lot of games with just average dudes. It's so nice just to be able to run really good dudes out there, man. I'm telling you, it's been awesome. I'm not going to lie.
I enjoy hearing coaches that maybe come from one notch down from the SEC talk about, what it's like to play with some dudes that a lot of teams don't necessarily have. And we'll talk later in the week about the order of which you pitch these two guys. I do know that there is not some sort of massive disparity in either Wofford nor North Carolina's lineup where, like, A&M last year, I think at some point they could run 7 lefties out there. And you've seen that a little bit every once in a while. A team just is, or maybe there's a team that has 8 right-handed bats or something. But that's not the case with Wofford or North Carolina. They both have a little bit of a blend there. So, and I don't care what Long Island's lineup looks like. So it's, I don't see a wrong way to do it. I'll look at some splits if they're available. We'll try to get a beat writer on from North Carolina to see if there's something there. But my guess is you're going to see Gage jump in the first game and Luke Holman in the second game. But I don't. If they flip that and go Holman in the first game, jump in the second game, like, I'm not going to think too much of it. If you made me go out there and win a game, I would probably send Gage jump out there. So I think I would probably pitch him against North Carolina, but I have no issue as an LSU fan who will live and die on every pitch of that game if Luke Holman gets the baseball in that game. I just that would be perfectly fine with me. So I don't think there's a wrong way to do this. I heard Charlie talk about this today. I have heard Matt talk about this for a year now. I would not have thrown Paul Skeens against Tulane, and we've had that discussion round and round and round and round. I thought that was tough. But this time around, either one I'm going to be just fine with. So that's on the positive side. On the negative side, Christian Little had to leave the game in the SEC tournament, and Jay Johnson gave an update on the right-hander.
Yeah, I think he's doing okay. We'll have to see. And it's tricky because we're in that time of year, like, if you can't pitch, like, you can't be on the roster, because of, especially in the regional round, because of 5 games potentially in 3 or 4 days. I'm optimistic based on where the pain is, talking to Isaac Trujillo, but it'll probably be how fast does he recuperate, and we're probably not going to know that till Thursday. He'll definitely travel with us. It's just a matter of, it'll probably be a late decision on whether he's going to be on the active roster or not.
And that's a huge bummer. And it's, if you're not playing in the SEC tournament, that doesn't happen. So that's my fear at times when you add on 9 more innings and then 9 more innings, and where you could just kick your feet up and get ready for the selection show. You're competing to win a championship, and obviously it sucks. The Christian who has come on and really found himself after a 3-year stint that he could not have forecasted. Like, you have to think that Christian Little thought he was going to come to college and just dominate based on the pedigree that he took with him from St. Louis to Vanderbilt. And it just didn't quite click. And you think, well, he'll come to LSU and change the scenery, and it didn't click his first year here either. And early on this year, it wasn't great. And then all of a sudden, something happened, and he just found it. And what I like sometimes, and this is probably overthinking it a little bit, but I like big-time stuff guys, even if they struggle at times against SEC teams, in the regionals against some of these teams that don't see that very often. I just don't think that Long Island nor Wofford sees a lot of Christian Littles that are 6'4" and physical and old and throw 97 miles an hour with a hard slider. Like, Ole Miss sees that every week. Every week. Long Island and Wofford don't. And so to have that as a guy that you can use to eat some innings up, and you understand how taxing a regional can be on a pitching staff, any injury to your pitching staff is going to hurt. And this one feels significant. Like, I feel a little bit worse going into the regional if Christian Little's not available, and we're just not going to know that for a while. We'll understand who's on the active roster. We'll get that. So it won't be one of those deals where you have to wait. Like, we'll know. But it just doesn't sound great when you're sitting there on Monday and you're saying, well, on Thursday I'll let you know. Like, it just doesn't sound awesome. And again, if he's not available on Friday, can you really expect him to be available on Sunday or Monday? So then you just don't have him active, and that's just a guy that you can't use that you've counted on for the last month. That's a really tough draw there for Christian Little. Last thing here before we get to Glenn West, Jay spoke about LSU's schedule for the week.
So those guys will be in the training room today. Tomorrow we'll have a light workout, which will consist of mostly in the cages. The strength and conditioning piece will be important tomorrow because we played just about every day of last week. We'll have a regular or more normal practice on Wednesday to cover some things that we uncover, about our opponent on Friday. And then we'll probably shower and eat here and then leave mid to late afternoon and then get there, get a good night's rest. It's a 1 hour time change. It doesn't seem like a lot, but I'm always very sensitive to that. So getting there Wednesday, I think, is important. And then we'll have the practice day, like an hour and 15 minutes, I believe, on the field on Thursday. And then Friday, I don't know what time we play. I know we're playing Wofford, and from there, it's one pitch at a time.
And I appreciate that Jay wants to be prepared for everything and to consider everything. The way that I watched Gage Jump and Luke Holman pitch at 9:30 in the morning, I'm not super concerned with the noon local time start, 11 o'clock time here where they're sitting today. Not super concerned about that. I think LSU played pretty well at 9:30 in the morning in some pretty important games at that point to those guys. So I think they'll be fine with the time change. You were talking about flying out to Corvallis and playing at 10 o'clock our time after a 4-hour flight or whatever. I can start to look at that. You jump on a charter plane for an hour and 40 minutes and then you change an hour. I think they'll be just fine from that perspective. I think that they did play a lot of baseball over the weekend, and hopefully they've got a couple days to rest, recuperate, and get their minds ready to go. But look, the entirety of your 56-game schedule and the 1 week in the conference tournament is just to set your roadmap to Omaha. And because LSU was so poor for the first part of SEC play, your roadmap is a little harder. You got to pack a suitcase and go. Now, we'll see what happens if they can win a regional, and maybe they can come to the box for a super. But you've got to go play the number 4 ranked team in the country on the road because you were bad for 5 weeks. Does that mean you can't go do it? No, it doesn't. So you got to start now. Hopefully they're playing a little bit better, got a little more confidence, and are ready to go for Wofford coming up on Friday at 11 o'clock our time. So we'll be on the air while they we'll come on the air while they're in the middle innings, and hopefully that game will end. It'll be victorious, and we can break down the end of it, and LSU can get ready for very likely North Carolina, but we'll see. I am fired up to talk about it for the next 4 days. All right, let's come back with Glenn West from Go 24/7 next.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Visit us at LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino this spring and summer for all the hoops and hockey playoff action. We got the biggest screens, the best food and drink, plus we're giving away pin cash bonuses and prizes to Pin Play Rewards members. Not a member? Join today by downloading and registering for the Pin Play app from the App Store. Unlock all the fun, including a chance to win up to $2,000 in pin cash. All this and more make LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino your spring sports viewing headquarters. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency.
Moscona from all of us here at AFR, wishing you and yours a very happy and safe Memorial Day weekend. We'll take Monday off and be back on Tuesday. We'll know LSU's regional destination, and we'll talk about it. So join us Tuesday, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Tuesday shows, baseball breakdowns, all brought to you by Plucker. So if it's Tuesday and we're going to break down baseball with Glenn West, might as well tell you about the folks over at Pluckers. We'll be there for sports trivia tonight at 8:30. Hope to see you out there. Glenn West, senior writer at Go 24/7, talking Tigers with us. How are you, sir?
It's a good day to talk some baseball, postseason baseball. All right. We weren't sure, I think, at this time a week ago. Well, maybe we were. I think LSU had already wrapped up their game against Georgia, but we weren't entirely sure what their landscape held going into last week. So having this conversation today is a lot better.
Now that we look at, let's talk selection first, and we'll talk about how the team played over the weekend and what they're going to do moving forward. But like when you look at where Florida was and they got in, do you think that LSU needed to win on Tuesday?
I think so. I mean, like I think you felt so much better about that, that win and their chances after that win. I mean, I do think they probably still would have snuck in. I think the committee would have done just about anything to get LSU into the tournament, and I think the fact that they got to that 13-win threshold and they were 23-3 out of conference and kind of got close to that 40-ish win mark. I think they probably still would have gotten in, but you just probably would have had to sweat about it a little bit harder on Monday, probably like the Gators were.
Hoover's a marathon. What was your biggest takeaway from LSU's stay there, whether it was the craziness with the drama, whether it was the fact that they won some games, whether the fact they didn't win the conference championship, starting pitching? Like, what was the biggest storyline from the week in Alabama?
Yeah, I think probably the consistency with the offense. I mean, I did not have LSU winning their first two games, particularly over teams that are hosting this weekend, winning those games 20-1 combined. And it was just a complete domination over Georgia and Kentucky. And I thought the offense really set the tone. Of course, Gage Jump and Luke Holman did their thing, and they had really, really stellar outings. But I think just from an offensive perspective, we've been waiting for this consistency all season long from this group, and I think you saw it from really 1 to 9. Everybody kind of contributed throughout the week. Even when LSU got light on pitching towards the end of the weekend, you're able to kind of push forward and get a couple really solid wins to get you into the championship game because in large part of your offense and the consistency with which they were hitting. I mean, Stephen Milam just looks like a completely different player these last couple of weeks, which is really, really exciting for this group going forward. But also in the short term, having another bat in there that you feel like you can really rely on to drive in runs. I feel like Michael Braswell in that leadoff spot has been really a magnificent kind of turnaround for him over the last 2 or 3 weeks as well. So I think they finally just found the formula with the starting lineup and just for so long there it was just like, okay, who's going to be starting on a game-to-game basis? And I think they finally settled in not only on their top 9 or 10 guys that they're going to be really relying on, but also kind of the order in which they can best kind of manufacture runs with those guys.
Let's go to pitching. How big a deal is it if Christian Little can't pitch over the weekend?
It's a big deal. I mean, I was listening. I kind of caught the tail end of your spiel there in the last segment, and I do think it's significant because I think LSU, you have to kind of go into this weekend hoping that your two stars can get you through the first two games, which means you'd have to kind of piece it together for one more game. And I would certainly love to have that bullet in the chamber of Christian Little there, a guy that throws 97, 98 miles an hour. And, I think there's just a lot of uncertainty right now on whether he'll be available. I think he kind of dodged the big, kind of worst case scenario here, but still, I mean, a shoulder injury, some kind of shoulder, lat pull or whatever. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at either. And, to kind of expect a 1 week turnaround here. Not sure if he's going to be able to play. We probably won't know anything until Thursday. But it's a significant blow for a guy who I think really kind of found himself towards the end of this last season. I know that he didn't have a great outing this last time up, in the Saturday game, but he's been very good for you, I think, overall for the last month or so. And so not having him available, I think, would be a blow for the bullpen.
After Jump and Holman, and then Herring and Guidry and Ackenhausen, I think, all kind of fall in the same category. Where is your confidence in the rest of the crew, and maybe specifically in a guy or two that you think they could go to in a clutch moment and expect some positive results?
Yeah, I think it's why you got to get through these first two games. I mean, I do think this staff is built to win a couple of games. But if you got to play 4 or 5 games this weekend, that's going to be tough. It's going to be, you're going to really have to piece it together. Look, I think Sam Dutton's shown you some things. He can get you a couple outs here and there. I think that Justin Lohr's been a little bit better here of recent. Look, somebody that we haven't really talked a whole ton about this season, but just did a really nice job of getting out this past weekend was Will Helmers. I mean, I know that you're going to be throwing him out there for the 8th and 9th inning of a close game, but if you need some outs in the middle of an inning or in the middle of the game, I certainly could see Jay, turning to Helmers and letting him get maybe 4 or 5 outs. And I think it's going to be one of those situations where you're going to have to piece it together. I mean, Fidel Ulloa is another name that I think you kind of throw into that kind of 3 or 4 guys after those guys that you mentioned. So, you're just going to have to piece it together. But I think they have enough quality arms. You're just going to need them all to step up in a big-time postseason situation like that.
You absolutely saw that last year from some guys you probably could not have expected it from. So they're going to have to do that again if they're going to have to make a run. Who would you start, or do you have a preference of who you would start on the mound on Friday?
I've been going back and forth on this. I mean, look, Wofford, I was looking at their last couple of games in which they started. They had 6 right-handers, 3 lefties in the lineup. I would be probably, the safe bet would stick with Gage Jump, but I think just because it is such a right-heavy lineup, maybe you do give some credence into letting Luke Holman go out there in the first game. I think the fact that both of them now are going to have, an extra couple days rest means that Jay can be a little bit more, kind of matchup quality in terms of who he wants to throw in that first game because they're going to have that extra rest. But kind of the safe bet I think would be Gage Jump, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Holman either, just by the matchup.
You think they're going to win the regional?
I think they have a good shot. I mean, look, they've really, they're the hottest team right now, probably in, certainly in the conference and probably in all of college baseball. I mean, when you get to this time of year, it's really not about the best team. It's about the team that's playing best at this time of the year. And I think LSU is right there neck and neck with among the teams that has got the most confidence, got the most momentum, has had some consistency now. And they've beaten a lot of really, really good teams. I mean, like these wins over Kentucky and Georgia and certainly South Carolina and, getting into a 1-run game at the end against the number 1 team in the country against Tennessee. There's not a whole lot of teams around the country that can say that they've had that week. And I think LSU's got a really solid chance to get this regional, but they've got to obviously go out there and prove it. And I think you're going to be relying on a lot of your big play guys, Tommy White, Jared Jones, Hayden Chavinsky's going to need to step up for sure. Braswell, Pearson. They have a good mix, I think, of guys who have been there and guys who have really shown you of late that they can be difference makers for you in postseason play.
I always get questions like this when I do spots around the country, and I don't know how fair it is, but I'll just toss it your way and see what your reaction is. Like, before they even start this NCAA tournament process, what would have to happen for this season to be considered a success?
Man, that's a good question. I would say probably, at least showing some fight here in the regional. I mean, look, this team was in such a bad place 4 or 5 weeks ago. That I do think the fact that they were able to turn it around, they were able to get some of this late ascension from guys that you're expecting back on the roster next year, kind of gives you some hope going into next year that that this thing can be a really, really strong roster going into 2025. But really, I mean, you've gotten this far in 2024. I really do think that LSU feels like they have, from a talent perspective at least, as good a roster as any in the country right now. And Jay has said that pretty religiously here over the last couple of weeks, is that, he firmly believes LSU's been a top 10, 15 team in the country. So just judging on that, you would say hopefully it means at least a regional win. I know obviously the goal for this program is always Omaha. So, you kind of scratch your way through the regional here. Maybe you get lucky and you get to host the super regional next week. I mean, just consider that the conversation that we're having right now as opposed to what it would have been a week ago. I mean, a week ago it was, can they get into a 3-seed scenario? Now it's like, all right, well, if they keep winning and they keep showing what they've been able to do over the last week, into this postseason, this could be a team that absolutely can run the tables and make another trip to Omaha. So, I think there's just a lot of positivity going for them right now, and it's a major, major credit for those players and certainly the coaching staff for not kind of letting them give up on the season.
You want to follow along with the baseball team, follow along with Glenn West over at Go 24/7. All your football, basketball, baseball, recruiting coverage, you can find it over at Go 24/7. Glenn's with us every single Tuesday. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks, Ron. Appreciate it.
Always enjoy our conversations with Glenn. I'll add briefly, just to answer that question that I asked Glenn personally, like, you're never going to find me feeling like you've accomplished much of anything at LSU if you don't win a regional. I realize that they were in a bad spot, but you got yourself into that bad spot by playing poorly and not stacking up with the best teams in the country. And when they lace them up in February, you're expected to compete with the best teams in the country. Now, every route can be different, and it's okay if you bump your toe a couple times and then show up and figure it out later. And even though the road's a little bit harder, you get it figured out. But they got to do that. So we'll see. I'm hopeful they can go to Chapel Hill and get it done, but we'll certainly see. We'll come back. I think LSU football just added a starter. I'll tell you who next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is the website. If you're looking to make your home the place to watch the game this summer, especially this fall when football rolls around, Audio Video Security Solutions is your one-stop shop. They provide all the materials when you determine how you want to set up your home entertainment system. So you don't have to go buy the speakers and go buy the television. No, you just tell them what you want them to do. They'll make it happen for you. They can do surround sound. One of the cool features that Mitchell Fisher and his team showed me in our process was sometimes if you have multiple groups watching the game, one in the kitchen, one in the living room, maybe somebody's outside, sometimes the sound's not synced up, so you got different broadcasts and one TV's ahead of the other. You can go ahead and sync the TVs up together on the surround sound so that all the sound is coming in at one time, and it just works so you can walk in and out and not feel like you're listening to two different ball games while you're at a party. It's really cool features they've got, and that's one of the things that I didn't know you could do, and it's probably the case for a lot of you. Like, what can an audio video security system channel do? Well, they can do that for you. Make your house the place to watch a game. Give Mitchell Fisher and his team a call. Check them out online. It's avssla.com, avssla.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $11,000 off the new 23 Dodge Charger. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $11,000 off the powerful new Charger. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain.
Jimmy Ott and Charles Henniger for the Wednesday edition of Live at Lunch, live at Los Reyes Mexican Grill on Lee, just off of Nicholson, right across from Mike Anderson's. Live at Lunch, live at Los Reyes, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Wednesday at 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Closing down hour number 1 here. It was announced earlier today that LSU had landed another transfer in from the transfer portal. And probably not going to make everybody just jump for joy. You got, a punter. But the punter's Blake Oxendorf from Louisiana Tech. And in the transfer portal world, it's not that often that you can grab a starter from the Southeastern Conference. Like, that doesn't happen a ton. It happens some, but it doesn't happen a ton. A lot of times you go, quote unquote, down a level, whether it's to the group of 5 or even into the FCS at times, to grab some transfers who are looking to test themselves at the highest level. And you don't really know if that skill set's going to translate. Yeah, you can do it at that level, but can you do it here? You know what skill I know translates from the group of 5 to the power 5? Punting. You catch it, you kick the crap out of it. And Blake Oxendorf does that. He averaged 45.72 yards per punt last season. He led Conference USA in the top 20 nationally. He was nearly 50 yards a punt in conference games. And he had 17 50-plus yards punts. If you can do that against Rice or Middle Tennessee, you can do that against Alabama. As long as your offensive line blocks, all you got to do is kick it. And he's proven he can do that. Now, of course, bigger games, nerves, all that kind of stuff, sure. But the skill should be there. And guess what? If you were at LSU spring game this year, you realized punting was not so great. Some shanks, not a lot of hang time. And this can be really important. So I think this is a great ad. I can't tell you I had heard of Blake Oxendorf as of 24 hours ago. In fact, I'm 100% certain I had not. And I didn't know that LSU was definitely in the market for a punter. But the fact is that LSU has a need there after you lose the services of Nathan Bramlett, who you had for a couple of seasons. And you're bringing in a guy who, to me, is proven. If you prove at this level, at the college level, that you can kick the ball 50 yards, like, I feel like you're going to be able to do it in Ruston or in Tiger Stadium. So this is not as great as supplementing that defensive line. You don't have a brand new quarterback or a guy that was a former 5-star recruit at wide receiver. But this is a need on your team based on what I saw in the spring game. And this addresses it. I think this is a fantastic ad for Brian Kelly and his staff. I know that special teams have been a bit of a bugaboo for LSU over the last couple of years, not necessarily because of Bramlett. But I think that adding an all-conference type punter is going to translate. So welcome aboard, Blake Oxendorf, and go kick the ball really high and far. That's all we need you to do. Now, the guy that we had the last couple of years didn't get used all that much because they're scoring a lot of points. Maybe a little bit more action this year. But I think this is a good ad for LSU, even though it's not the most exciting position to add a transfer. That's it for hour number one. When we come back, we'll talk about re-ranking the recruiting classes from 4 years ago based on the athletic.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $11,000 off the new 23 Dodge Charger. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $11,000 off the powerful new Charger. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial properties. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. The Mavericks in the driver's seat as they get ready to host the Timberwolves. Game 4 of the NBA's Western Conference Finals tonight. In addition to the play of co-stars Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, Dallas is up 3-0 in part because nothing Minnesota's doing on defense is working, points out ESPN NBA insider Brian Windhorst.
They're changing their defense nonstop, changing the way they're defending the pick and roll, changing their strategies and their priorities because they can't cover all of this Dallas offense. They've gone from defending the three-point line at all costs to sinking their defenders in to defend the rim to dealing with lobs.
Game 4 West Finals, 8 Eastern ESPN Radio. Mavs center Derek Lively, neck injury doubtful. Big man Maxi Kleber is questionable. The Rangers, coming off a second straight overtime win, visit the Panthers. Game 4 of the NHL's East Final tonight, 8 Eastern ESPN. 29-year-old Lexi Thompson, one of the biggest stars in women's professional golf over the last 15 years, announced today that this will be her final season competing full-time on the LPGA Tour.
As humans, we like having options. One option you might like is speaking with a real person when you call about your credit card. With 24/7 live, U.S.-based customer service from Discover, everyone can talk to a real person anytime, day or night. Limitations apply. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2. Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We're going to try at the bottom of the hour to check in with Jacob Hester, who's over at the SEC meetings. To be determined whether or not he's got a break this afternoon, but hopefully we can get to him in 30 minutes. I've got my thoughts on the selection committee and their performance on Monday coming up in 15 minutes. But to start the hour, I've got an interesting story that The Athletic did. And when I see a headline like this, I'm immediately gravitating towards it because I really don't know what the study is going to show. And so the headline from Max Olson was, which college football programs actually won the 2020 recruiting cycle, re-ranking the classes. So what he did was he went back at all of the 2020 signing classes, and he assigned each player a point rating that was signed. If they were an All-American, an award winner, or a top 50 NFL draft pick, that player got 5 points. If they were a multi-year starter and an all-conference player, 4 points. If they were a one-year starter or a key reserve, 3 points. Career backup, 2 points. Minor or no contribution, 0 points. Now, you don't need to know all that, but you understand this is how they would look at this. You either got your All-Americans or top 2-round draft picks. You've got your starters and all-conference players. You've got your reserves, and you got your folks that don't help at all. And I was interested in this. So we'll start from the LSU perspective. This class for LSU in 2020 was coming off the 2019 National Championship. The top signees in that class, in terms of how they panned out, were B.J. Ojulari, Jaquelin Roy, Ali Gay, Jabril Cox, and Kayshon Boutte. That's the class we're talking about here. And LSU ranked 10th on this list. The top of the list is the Georgia Bulldogs. You look at this Georgia team, that class had Jalen Carter in it. Pretty good. First pick in the draft. Cedric Van Pran, All-American, 3-year starter at center for him. Ladd McConkey, probably heard of him. Carson Beck was in that class. He's going to become your 2-year starting quarterback. And so that's number one. Bama had Bryce Young and Will Anderson at the top of this class. Chris Bradwell, Malachi Moore. That was second in this class. And Michigan's was third. Blake Corum, Roman Wilson. But one of the numbers that jumped out at me was not what school had the most All-Americans or what school won the most games. Or it's not surprising at all that Georgia, Bama, and Michigan are in the top 3 here, or that LSU is right there at 10. All that makes a ton of sense. The attrition numbers on these classes jumped out at me. Attrition for them is defined as transferred out before you graduated, a graduate transfer, someone who is kicked out of the program, or elects to leave. Like, basically anything but you finished your college football career, graduated, and left. Georgia's class, best in the country by this point system, had a 46% attrition rate. 46% of that class did not finish at Georgia. Bama's was 62%. These are the best classes. Michigan, 61%. Now, I realize LSU had a coaching change here, but 68% attrition rate from that signing class of 2020. The names that jump out here: Eli Ricks, Eric Gilbert, Max Johnson, TJ Finley. I can keep going. More than half the class, almost more than 2/3 of the class left. So I took it upon myself as I looked at that, because that was the thing that jumped out the most at me from this piece. I was like, wonder what that used to be before we got to the transfer portal, because LSU had a coaching change in the middle of this and a global pandemic, if we're being quite honest. And they lost 68%, but that wasn't an outlier. Bama was at 62. Michigan was at 62. 40. Went back and looked at 10 years ago, 15 years ago, like how much of this was going on then? And I looked at the 2011 class, because that was a very, very star-studded class. You'll remember, those that are of reasonable age, if you're a 17-year-old high school kid who's driving around, you may not remember this, but the 2011 class was a big one. It had Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham and Jeremy Hill and Kenny Hilliard and Freak Johnson and Lael Collins and Trey Turner, and it was a big-time Louisiana class that came in, and a lot of those guys had ties to the state and were highly profile players, and LSU won a lot of games while those guys were here. Zach Mettenberger was in the class. They were freshmen on that great team. And there were 21 high school signees in that class, and only 6 of them left. So you kept 15, lost 6. 2012, the next year, was not a class that was star-studded as that one. I mean, it was a good signing class. Les Miles almost always had good signing classes, and we know that the 2011 season was that awesome. So you would imagine that the 2012 class would have some really good players. And so that class had Quan Alexander, Corey Thompson, Gerald Hawkins, who became your left tackle, Lamar Lewis, Fadal Alexander, Deion Jones, Dwayne Thomas, Daniil Hunter, Traven Durrell, Jalen Mills. Like, that was that class of guys. And in that class, you had 21 signees, and 7 of them left. So you had that's about a third of the class left. You had a 33% retention rate. You had a 33% attrition rate. So that number has doubled now for everyone. And I'm looking at LSU's 2022 class. You signed 15 high schoolers. It was Brian Kelly's first class. 7 are gone. So that's about half. And you would imagine there might be some more. 2021 class, there were 15 commitments. 13 have left. That's more than half. You are now looking at an era where more than half of your signing class every single year is going to leave. That goes for everyone, not LSU, not coaching changes, everyone. Georgia, Bama, Michigan. Everybody is losing half of their signing class. And so that is why LSU has created a staff position that Sherman Wilson holds called the Director of Player Retention. And that's why Brian Kelly, in his most recent press conference, said, like, when he was talking about we're not going to buy players, said, look, the name of the game in NIL for us is retention. We are going to focus our NIL efforts not on grabbing the one-year transfer from South Alabama, the one-year transfer from Oklahoma, the one-year transfer from NC State. We're going to focus our NIL push on guys that have come in, bought into our system, believe in this place, and have earned the right to cash in. And we're going to take care of Will Campbell, and we're going to take care of Harold Perkins, and we're going to take care of Malik Neighbors and Jaden Daniels and Brian Thomas. And when you come on your recruiting visit and you see our top players, you understand there is real earning potential here, but we're not going to give it to you based on how you played against John Curtis last year. I'm not telling you that you're ineligible to have it, but this is how we're going to do it. There's a finite number of funds that you have. Now, it's a big number, but it is finite. And you've got to determine how you're going to deploy that. And for LSU, trying to keep these really good high school players happy in here is going to be it. And you understand that over the course of that when you sign 26 high schoolers, 14, 15, 17 of them are going to leave. It's something I've felt I had a handle on, but just writing it out on my notebook and seeing it is a little jarring. And I can just hear those of you that are driving around going, this is a ruined college football. And I'm going, well, I don't know about that. I kind of enjoyed Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels coming here and playing football. I thought that was a good thing. But you understand that, like, guys are going to leave. And you start looking at, like, I'll just pull up LSU's 2023 signing class. Like, that was recent. That was last year. And Lance Hurd is gone. And Jaylen Brown is gone. And I'm rolling through here. Ryan Yates is gone. Christian Brathwaite's gone. Kai Prien's gone. I mean, this is literally just me scrolling on the air. Jeremiah Hughes is gone. Michael Daugherty. Like, it's a lot of dudes. Logan Diggs is gone. It's about half. And so that is the nature of college football. And I think a lot of times we can get immersed in this bubble in LSU world and think, man, so many guys are leaving. And it does us some good to allow a national writer to go back and go through all this research. Like, that's going through a lot of dudes. Because I can tell you right now, if you ask me to go through Ole Miss's 2023 signing class, I'm going to have a hard time telling you which guys are still there and which guys aren't. Somebody's got to go do that. And to do that and realize, hey, you're just right there on par with all the other teams that are trying to win a national championship. Just got to try to keep the guys around who are really good. And LSU's got a system in place to try and do the best you can. And that's kind of the name of their game down here in Baton Rouge. So that's a look at what I thought was an interesting piece. If you want to read the whole thing, you can go to The Athletic and check it out. Just re-ranking the 2020 signing class. LSU's comes in 10th at this point. All right, we'll step aside. When we come back, how'd the selection committee to do yesterday? I've got my thoughts mainly tethered to SEC teams and kind of what I saw and what I thought. And, we grind this stuff for a few weeks. Here are the results. We'll get to those coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, party plank, and...
Matt Moscona from all of us here at AFR, wishing you and yours a very happy and safe Memorial Day weekend. We'll take Monday off and be back on Tuesday. We'll know LSU's regional destination, and we'll talk about it. So join us Tuesday, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Our Rad Dad contest is back, presented by Roaming Shot Outdoors and Shooting Range. Upload a picture of your dad doing dad things to 1045ESPN.com for a chance to win him a Blackstone grill with all the accessories, 1 long-range shooting school class for 2 from Roaming Shot Outdoors and Shooting Range, steaks from Krista's Specialty Foods, a Hawk soap gift basket, and a full throttle package from Finish Line Haircuts. That is a lot. We'll be choosing a winner June 14th. Happy Father's Day from Roaming Shot Shooting Range and 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Coming out to Pluckers tonight, 8:30 sports trivia. Be watching some NBA basketball. We'll be eating some delicious wings, drinking some cold beers, winning gift cards. Always a great time on Tuesdays. Hope you'll come out tonight at 8:30. You can come alone. You can bring a squad. We'll be done before 10 o'clock. Generally speaking. So hope to see you all out there at Pluckers tonight. All right, the committee put out the field of 64 yesterday, and I was I was interested in a lot of it because I feel like this year we really spent a lot of time on the bubble because LSU was squarely there for the last 2 weeks. And then I was obviously interested in the host sites as well. And I didn't think anything the committee did was egregious. And that's rare. It's rare that they look at something and just no one can figure out how they arrived at that conclusion. And I am at times a little bit torn on the mid-major who's had an incredible season versus the Power 5 team who's been middling in the league but is probably more talented. I can see it in football. I mean, in baseball a little bit more because we've just got a lot of evidence that Coastal can compete and that Stony Brook can compete and that Kent State can compete and that Oral Roberts can compete. And like generally speaking, every year you've got somebody that finds their way through. That's happening more often in basketball than it ever has. They can't do it in football, and I don't ever want to cede anything to the group of 5 in football because it just doesn't work. The big boys need to play football against the big boys. In this sport, the little guy can compete. And so at times I'm conflicted on whose resume deserves what. And I want to talk about the host site bubble as well as the actual at-large bubble. Firstly, I really thought Mississippi State got the short end of the straw. Do I think that this was wrong? Probably not wrong. I would have gone the other way. Because when you're looking at State and you compare them to the last 2 regional hosts, which are Oregon State got the 15 and East Carolina got the 16, I would lean Mississippi State in both instances. And so here's why. State did go 17 and 13 in SEC play, which I don't think should be the biggest deal, but we find oftentimes that it can be. They were 16 and 14 against Quad 1. That's good. That is over 500 over 30 games. ECU, conversely, was 5 and 2. Oregon State was 4 and 3. Now, I think sometimes you can get in trouble comparing only wins against Quad 1. Because let's just say, for example, that State played 30 Quad 1 games like they did, and they went 11 and 19. Okay. Yeah, you've got 11 Quad 1 wins, and East Carolina's only got 5, but East Carolina went 5 and 2, and you were playing 333 baseball. Like 11 and 19 is bad. Yeah, you have more Quad 1 wins, but you played a ton of games. That was not the case for State this year. They were 16 and 14. That's a winning record. I would give them the nod over East Carolina. Now, East Carolina, to their credit, did play North Carolina in a non-conference series. We know that North Carolina is the number 4 national seed, and East Carolina won that series. It was they played one game at each home site and then one at a neutral, and they won that. And they played NC State twice in the midweek and won both of those games. So I do give East Carolina credit for stepping out and playing some ACC teams. It helps them geographically that they're already there, but that was good. And their RPI was 3 spots better than Mississippi State. Mississippi State got dinged by the RPI here, being 25, because Oregon State was 18 and East Carolina was 22, and they both got in. I would have put State in. I believe that State was dinged for their 5 Quad 4 losses. They lost 2 games to Austin Peay in a midweek series and 1 to Central Arkansas. And quite frankly, I don't give a darn about those games back in February. I just think we're weighting them too heavily. And it's certainly a feather in your cap to those you got to go win out and win every ball game. I mean, I get that. But like, I care more about who you beat than who you lost to, honestly. And if you're consistently beating top 50 teams, if you're winning 17 games in the SEC, I care about that more than I do Austin Peay in February on a Tuesday when it's probably 40 degrees. Like, that's how I'm going to assess that situation. So East Carolina and Oregon State both have resumes that are worthy as a host. I just think that, in my opinion, Mississippi State's was better. And to add fuel to that fire, Georgia, an SEC team, did get the benefit of the doubt for their top 8, and Florida, an SEC team, got the benefit of the doubt for the bubble. And Mississippi State, an SEC team, and all these metrics kind of look the same. The SEC teams are always going to have more Quad 1 wins. They're always going to have a tougher strength of schedule. And that's where Georgia and Florida made their way. Florida had the number one strength of schedule, and State didn't stand up. So I thought State deserved better. As far as the bubble goes, this goes back to that point of big, talented money program versus team that won a ton of games. Because Florida went 28-27, 13-17 in the league. They did have a worse quad one record. It was 13-18. And they get in, and Charleston, who goes 41-14, 21-5 in league, 3-4 against quad one, gets left out. Now, Charleston, while they did play some solid baseball teams in the non-conference, they didn't step up to the way that they need to. Charleston needs to be playing South Carolina or Wake Forest or Georgia Tech. They need to be playing Clemson, North Carolina. You need to find something like that on your schedule. And for your best non-conference series wins to be Penn, who is in the tournament and was in the tournament last year, and it's a functional baseball team. They won a couple games in the regional last year. And Wofford, who we'll see on Friday, that's not enough. And that's going to leave you on the outside looking in. It's why with 41 wins, your RPI is 42. I need some more name brands on that schedule. And they put Nebraska on there, who's in the league, and they got swept. So, while I do think Charleston probably has a solid club, I can't tell you that I watched a lot of Charleston baseball, but they went 21-5 in their league and won 41 games. Lamar's kind of in the same boat, although they do step out and play really good non-conference games, and Will Davis did an incredible job with that team this year. And Florida had a pretty year, but they get in. And then James Madison gets in 7-8 in quad one with a 44 RPI, and TCU's left out with a 39 RPI. Like last year, the top 41 RPI teams were all in the field. Some as auto qualifiers, some as at larges. But that was the metric last year. And this year, you get a little jumbled up. Because TCU's RPI is better than James Madison. Charleston's RPI is better than James Madison. But they looked at some other metrics. And that's the tough part for head coaches who are trying to put a schedule together. You don't have as good an idea as what everybody's going to be because the transfer portal makes things so volatile. And you don't know how things are going to affect your RPI until it's all said and done. All you can do is go out there and try to win games. And, Florida didn't win a lot of games. They won 28. That's 13 less than Charleston, who doesn't get an opportunity to play. And like I said at the top, I'm not here championing for the little guy. That's not why I'm here. I do respect their case more in this sport than I do in football. But I think Mississippi State got a raw into the deal, and I thought that Florida was in some trouble when the Tallahassee Regional came and went, and they weren't in it because that just felt like they were for sure going to go there. The committee loves to do that. They did it with A&M in Texas. They did that little deal with Arizona and Jay Johnson, matching those up. We see this all the time. How many times has Miami gone to Gainesville for a regional? Like 1,000. So I thought that was going to be some trouble for them when the Florida State Regional came and went, and it was Bama. But Florida does get in, and we'll see. I mean, to me, would I rather watch Jack Caglione play at Oklahoma State than Charleston? Probably. But do I see Charleston's case? I do. But LSU played their way through the whole deal. They'll be a 2 seed, and we'll talk about them a little bit more tomorrow. But let's talk a little bit of SEC stuff, which is kind of the best way to describe what's going on over in Destin right now. Jacob Hester is there for SiriusXM, and he'll join us coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Every shot, every goal, ESPN Bet has fans covered for the biggest moments on the road to a championship. The exclusive sportsbook of ESPN is the only place to find special offers and promotions from your favorite ESPN shows and personalities throughout the playoffs. New users can get a bet reset up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Download ESPN Bet today. What a play. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in partnership with the Bears Lake Charles. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving.
Jimmy Ott and Charles Henniger for the Wednesday edition of Live at Lunch, live at Los Reyes Mexican Grill on Lee, just off of Nicholson, right across from Mike Anderson's. Live at Lunch, live at Los Reyes, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Wednesday at 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
I think Jacob Hester works hard. Seen him grinding at 6 o'clock in the morning here. I've seen him host multiple radio shows in a day, goes up to the NFL draft and does a lot of shows, a lot of hours. I'm not sure I'm giving him a ton of credit for grinding in Destin this week. Is that fair?
Look, hon, I mean, somebody's got to do it, right? I mean, you put in all the work, you do 2 shows a day, you blow hot air for 6 hours. Like, you know, if somebody's going to be working in a bathing suit and flip-flops, I'll take it.
Is there a margarita around anywhere? Is that accessible?
It's not too far away from where we're set up, about 100 yards, I would say. The closest margarita there. So no, it is certainly an event that I look forward to covering every year because of what you said. Like, it really is like the most relaxed you'll ever see any of these football coaches, ADs, basketball coaches. It's just completely different because there's not a game like on the horizon. Like, nobody has a game coming up in the near future. So you get the coaches at their most relaxed.
No doubt about it. Look, I think the biggest story probably has got to be the arrival of Oklahoma and Texas entering the next next athletic calendar year? Are people having to walk them around? Are they fitting in? Who's there? What are the vibes around the Longhorns and the Sooners?
Yeah, so last year they were kind of here. They had the flags outside, but they only had their athletic directors. None of the coaches were here. And so, Steve Sarkisian kind of knows the conference, obviously being in it as a coordinator, but he's never been here as a head coach. Like my man Brent Venables, you can tell, like, this is his first time in the SEC. And I kind of like look on his face as like, man, y'all do everything like big here. There's nothing that y'all do small. And Rodney Terry, the Texas basketball coach, has been great as well. And so, like, even though like some of these coaches have been in the league as assistants, you can tell like this is their first time here in spring meetings. And luckily for them, there's not really that like hot button 8-9 game conference game schedule. Alcohol sales, remember how big that was like 2 or 3 years ago? There was Jimbo versus Nick 2 years ago. What was the seating chart going to be? There's not really anything like that. Now, there's a lot going on in college athletics, but it feels like, that everybody's just kind of like rolling with the punches because they knew that pay for play was inevitable, maybe just not happening as quick as it did.
I mean, and we're talking about a lot of money to Joe on the street here, but I don't balance an athletic department's budget, so I don't know how much of an impact this is. But when we get into this pay for play, how do you think these schools are gonna handle that?
Yeah, so this morning when I was on our show, I called in and was talking with T-Bob. He asked that same question, and at that point, we had only talked with Alabama and Georgia. So of course, like, it's not going to be a big deal to them. I was curious to talk to Vanderbilt, Mizzou, those other schools, and they haven't really batted an eye. Like, $20+ million, whatever that number ends up being. I thought maybe those schools, but honestly, like, we have to think about it. They get a share of everything that Alabama and Georgia and LSU and Auburn get. Now, it might not be like the revenue as far as ticket sales and all of that, but when it comes to TV contracts, when it comes to everything everyone shares, right? You make a college football playoff, like that money gets shared. They're doing okay. So it's not something where they're, I think, worried about it. And I didn't really think about it in those terms when I came here, but, they get a piece of the pie, just like the other 15 schools do, whichever school we're talking about, maybe that we thought would be struggling with that. And so, honestly, like, it's like, yeah, it's part of what we're going to do. We're a have, we're not a have not, and we're going to move forward with it.
Can I make the case there are more haves today than there were this time last year because we've got an expanded college football playoff? I mean, Ole Miss has to feel like they're in the mix right now. Missouri even feels like they're in the mix right now, and they could have told me they were in the mix when there were 2 playing for national championship and 4, but they weren't, and now they could be. Is there a different vibe around that potential?
It's a great question because Missouri has a different feel here. They really do. Like, every one of their contingencies here, like, they feel like they have a different walk about them. And I think it's because of what you said, like, they now truly feel like they have an opportunity. I mean, they firmly make it last year, right? There's been years in Missouri's past where they've, been close. Like, they have a more rich football history than Ole Miss does as far as, like, recently almost getting into a championship. I mean, 2007, right? I mean, they almost got into a national championship that year. Thank God they didn't, but they almost did. So they've been there before. Like, they've played for conference championships. And so they're a place that feels like, right now, and who they retain, and Luther Burden not going to another school, and Brady Cook not going to another school, and you go get a Marcus Carroll to replace Cody Schrader. They feel like they are one of those teams, like an Ole Miss, like you said, that feels like they're probably 8 to 12, somewhere in that range in the country. And so, yeah, like, they feel like they're a playoff team, and that changes your mojo. It changes the way you walk into a room. And so I hadn't seen as much Ole Miss because during these spring meetings, Lane kind of hides a little bit. He's not like out in front like some of the other coaches. Like, maybe more than any other coach, he kind of hides away and you don't really see him. But I saw Eli Drinkwitz, I saw Coach Gates, basketball coach in Mizzou, kind of walking around, and definitely there's a different feel for Mizzou than there was in years past.
Let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum then. I saw Billy Napier was asked about the lawsuit from Jalen Rashada. He gave exactly what you think. There's litigation. I can't really talk about it, but we're confident in the legal team. But you look at the entirety of the picture. They don't win a lot of games. Their schedule looks ridiculously hard. Their former quarterback's suing the school. Like, what are the vibes there?
Yeah, their former quarterback is suing the school, and also somebody that's now a Georgia quarterback.
Yes,
which,
that's true.
I mean, their biggest rival. There's a lot of Florida walking around, and I saw Coach Golden, the basketball coach, and, he was in good spirits. But when you look at the Florida Gators, man, they're trying to sell that their schedule is not that difficult compared to what it was last year. And even my guy, Chris Doring, that's who I'm doing the show with here, he's trying to sell that. I'm not buying it.
No.
I'm just not. Sure, you don't have to go to LSU this year, but LSU's still coming to your place. You don't have to go to a couple different places. They're coming to your place. That's okay, but look at the schools that you're facing down the stretch. It's one of the, if not the toughest 5-game stretch in the season that I've ever seen before. And you're also in non-conference. Like, you're playing all the other good schools. You're playing Florida State, Miami. I think they play UCF too. I think there's going to be like a Florida State champion. I know they play certainly Miami and Florida State this year. So I don't know how they get the 6 wins, Hunt. And we know the expectation in Florida. You go back 2 years ago, you get housed by Oregon State in a bowl game, losing season. You don't make a bowl game last year. If you don't make a bowl game this year, I don't care what your recruiting classes look like. That's great. You're not going to survive in Gainesville. They expect excellence like they do in Baton Rouge, like they do in Tuscaloosa and all these other places, and they're not going to be okay with back-to-back losing seasons, and I cannot get them to 6 wins right now.
So I'm curious if this is permeated at all over there, because everyone that I know, it's not a ton of people, but I know some people with Big 12 in their blood, and they tell you, like, you're going to hate Texas within 10 minutes of this thing. Like, is that something that you've heard through the grapevine, that, like, Texas was not going to take a lot of time to impose their will on this thing and try to tilt the scales like they've done in the Big 12 for decades?
So, yeah, I mean, obviously, doing the show over on Channel 84, we're not SEC only. I mean, we cover everything. And so certainly you hear some of the narrative of the Big 12 people that would come on the show. And I actually thought this would be the case, and it's kind of played out. I don't see that so far. I didn't see it last year when they were here. I don't see it this year. I'm not saying that they got humbled or anything, but the SEC can be humbling, as we all know. And so, like, when you're Texas in the Big 12, you look around and there's no team that's on your level, I don't think. Like, as far as brand. You know what I mean? Like, Oklahoma's a big brand, do not get me wrong, but they're not Texas. Texas Tech, certainly not them. Or Baylor, any of these schools, BYU, who's now in the Big 12, they're not on the same level. But if you get here, you look around and, look, there's flags for every school. Well, Georgia's on your level. LSU's on your level. Alabama's on your level. So, like, and that's just a couple schools. And so I think that, because of that, you'll see a different version of Texas. Now, they're going to compete. Like, Steve Sarkisian was probably our best interview that we've had so far. I mean, he's fired up to be in the league. But I don't get the sense of entitlement that we always hear about with Texas, because I think they realize there's 4 or 5 schools that have the brand that we have.
Yeah, no doubt. What kind of LSU contingent do you expect to see?
Actually, we got BK coming up, 2:40, like 3 hours from now. Okay. Something like that. We got BK, and then we go straight into Kirby, so looking forward to those conversations. But, BK does such a good job in events like this. He really does. I mean, he's holding court, and so many coaches that he's either coached against or been on his, like Clark Lee. Like, he just waxed poetic about BK earlier today, because he was on staff at Notre Dame and just talks about what he did for his career. So he's one of the more popular figures here. He has been the last couple of years. Kind of the same situation. I saw him walking with a bunch of coaches, a group of coaches. He was holding court. So he's definitely comfortable in this scenario, in this situation now, where there used to be a question mark, right, how he's going to fit in to the league. So he's been great. Hadn't seen Matt McMahon yet. Haven't seen Coach Mulkey yet, but I know they'll be here, and I know Scott Woodward will be here as well. So I'm looking forward to Coach Mulkey. Hopefully we can get her down here, get her in the interview. I know last year she had some health issues, and so she missed last year, but very excited to kind of catch up with Coach Mulkey down here as well.
Have you seen Calipari in a red shirt?
So I have. It does not look right. It does not look right. I mean, look, as someone, and I know you're not going to understand this, but as someone who is an Evertonian, I'm an Everton fan, like, blue is the color. If there's red around, I don't want to look at it. I hate the Phillies. I hate Liverpool. I hate most things that are red, okay? And so, like, for him to go from blue to red, again, with me and my background being an Everton fan, it looked even more odd. But there's certainly, like, Kentucky's contingents right there. I haven't seen them rub shoulders. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
There hasn't been a lot of, hey, how you guys doing? Missed y'all. It's been, he's walking one way, they're walking another.
I understand. It's going to be an odd sight. Your former college football coach yelled at me for wearing red in a press conference one time, so I completely get it.
My former college football coach also yelled at me for wearing an Atlanta Braves hat that he thought was an Alabama hat. So, yeah.
We'll leave it at that. Get back to the margaritas and enjoy BK this afternoon, and we'll hear from you soon. See.
Absolutely. Sounds good, guys. Appreciate it.
That is Jacob Hester over at the SEC meetings in Destin. I got a feeling that sit down with Brian Kelly that he has here in a couple of hours is probably going to show up on OTB tomorrow. Just a hunch that T-Bob might take a segment off to hear from Brian Kelly. That's just a hunch on my part. We'll come back and close out hour number 2, Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electric. It's officially storm season now. Saw the National Hurricane Center put out a little advisory type thing. We are in it. Don't wait for the storm to come through before you call Boudreaux's Electric. Have them come out and proactively put a generator at your home so that you know when those storms come through, you're protected. Whether you ride the storm out at home and just want that power to be sure it stays on, or you evacuate, you come back after a few days, you don't want to come to a 96-degree house that has a ruined fridge. Boudreaux's Electric can give you the peace of mind with their Generac home standby generators to know, hey, we're not going to lose power. Hurricane, afternoon storm, ice storm like in January, doesn't matter. We are protected. The number is 985-397-1562. 985-397-1562. That's my friends at Boudreaux's Electric.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Elevate brand visibility, ignite customer engagement with the power of radio and digital advertising combined. Guarantee Digital Media brings the two together as a trusted media partner in Louisiana for nearly a century. Claim your free digital audit at guaranteemedia.com.
When things heat up, you don't just want a cold one. You want the coldest one. The cold lagered, cold filtered, cold packaged one. Mountain Cold Refreshment. Coors Light. Choose chill.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors,
Matt Moscona from all of us here at AFR wishing you and yours a very happy and safe Memorial Day weekend. We'll take Monday off and be back on Tuesday. We'll know LSU's regional destination, and we'll talk about it. So join us Tuesday, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the mic icon to send us your thoughts in audio form. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench, the Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review. Speak up, tell us your location, and be heard. Find our app in the Apple or Google Play Store. For direct links, visit 1045ESPN.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Just checked in with Jacob Hester from the SEC meetings over in Destin. Of course, the Feinbaum show is there. They got the set up there on the beach, and everybody's kind of relaxed. A lot of Hawaiian shirts, some really loose vibes. My guy Mike Griffith, who does an awesome job for the AJC covering Georgia, he's always in a suit and tie, always, and he is in a suit and tie at the SEC meetings as well. It's a good-looking blue suit with a nice tie. It looks great, but just not the vibe the SEC meetings usually puts out there. I mean, Feinbaum's got the white shirt on with the rolled-up sleeves. I mean, it's as loose as we see old Paul and Mike Griffith. He's going suit and tie no matter what.
He's got to be sweating at some point.
Oh, God. I mean, we've all been down there on the beach at some point down there in Destin. Like
it's in the 90s right now.
It gets toasty, and I'm not wearing a suit and tie very often on the beach. That doesn't happen much. So looks great though. All right, excited about tomorrow's show. We will have Koki Riley tomorrow from Chapel Hill. He's going to travel tomorrow morning, so we'll be able to talk to him from North Carolina. Ronnie Rance is going to come on and talk a little baseball as well. And Sharif Ishak usually on Tuesdays. Saints were practicing today for OTAs and had press availability, so we'll talk to Sharif coming up on tomorrow's show. Very much looking forward to that. Shout out to the folks at Pluckers. Hope to see you tonight at Sports Trivia. They bring you our Tuesday shows and our baseball breakdowns all baseball season long. Beck, some take it or leave it.
All right, first one here. The Ole Miss Rebels announced last week that Mike Bianco will return for his 25th season with the team. Take it or leave it.
Gotta leave it. This is a financial move by Ole Miss. They were going to have to pony up about $7 million over 4 years to buy him out. So you'd basically be paying a baseball coach not to coach while you pay a baseball coach to coach. And I think Lane Kiffin's probably got a pretty good grip on the finances over there.
If it weren't for NIL, they may have been able to pay that buyout.
Yeah, but that just wasn't going to happen. So the reporting from Chase Parham over at Revel Grove is that Mike Bianco is being told that he's got to step back as the pitching coach. He's handled really all the pitching his whole time there. He's a former catcher. He handles the mound visits. He handles the pitching changes, pitch calling. He does the whole thing. And the thought is that they're not paying attention to the analytics and the numbers as much as everybody else that's competing at the highest level. And if you're not in the pitch lab with the spin rates and all that kind of stuff, then you don't have the information that is available to most of the high level programs in the country. And you've seen a slip there. They have not had dominant pitching at Ole Miss the last couple of years. And I think the talent's dropped off from a hitting perspective as well. So they got their hands full. I got a feeling we're going to be right in this exact same spot this time next year. And I think that we'll eventually make a move there. But they're going to try to do it with the coaching staff change, which I don't think is going to do much.
Angel Hernandez, possibly the most infamous umpire the last 25 years, is officially retiring effective immediately, according to the MLB. Hernandez will be sorely missed. Take it or leave it.
I will leave it. Unless you're talking about people that you have to yell and scream on Twitter, because the invention of social media and being able to grab clips from baseball games and plug them in, plus the new ump grading system that they have, that showed what he was doing on a night in, night out basis, and it was atrocious. I mean, there's no other way to analyze Angel Hernandez's body of work as a home plate umpire and determine that it's anything other than horribly substandard. I'm not suggesting under any circumstance that I could go out there and do a better job, but he's been being paid to do that for decades and has been awful at it for decades. He's the only umpire that most Major League Baseball fans can actually name because he's so often maligned on broadcasts, on the internet, and he's the one who threw out Boone for doing nothing.
He didn't say anything. It was a fan.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, my favorite, of course, the threads are coming up on Twitter with all of his highlights, if you will.
Yes.
And my favorite one, I think, was in 2018, the ALDS Game 3. He had 3 of his calls overturned by replay within the first 4 innings of the game.
That's strong. That is really strong.
That is really good from Mr. Hernandez.
By strong, you mean utterly ridiculous.
We will not miss you, Mr. Hernandez. Moving on, the Chicago Cubs have lost 6 of their last 7, are now 27-27 overall. The season is over. Take it or leave it.
Leave it. I will say this. in the course of the SEC baseball tournament and the golf tournament I played in over the weekend, I did not see one pitch the Cubs threw. And that was probably good because they didn't win any of the games.
Well,
so,
it's not the pitches you need to worry about; it's the bats.
Yeah, they don't score a lot.
About.
I did see some of the scores, a lot of ones and zeros.
Yep.
That's not great, but they got to get it together.
Yeah, it's tough scene right now for the Cubbies. Last one here, Lexi Thompson will retire from professional golf at age 29. She had 15 wins in her illustrious career, however, not very long. Take it or leave it.
I will leave that it wasn't very long. You realize that Lexi Thompson played in the U.S. Women's Open as a 13-year-old.
I mean, that is true.
So when you go back and give it that context, like, oh, well, she did give it 16 years there. But still, 29 is very old to retire from anything, very young to retire from anything. Sports are an increasingly young game, and she can still compete, but it's just difficult to compete with some youngsters. And I think, with the women that are competing in some of those tournaments right now, you're talking about fresh out of college winning tournaments like that, like Rose Zhang. So it's hard. And she's had a really good run at it, been a stalwart on the Solheim Cup teams and whatnot, and been a really good player. I think she's going to play a little bit, but just not full time. And so you can't imagine that's going to go really well from a competition standpoint. But yeah, it's been for a 29-year-old to retire, you have to start pretty early, and she did at 13 years old competing professionally. So enjoy retirement there, Lexi. That's it for our Tuesday show. If you missed any of it, you can catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, wherever you find your sound. I open things up talking about LSU in the SEC tournament. We heard some sound from Jay Johnson as well. Those baseball breakdowns brought to you by Pluckers. Glenn West was with us talking about the Tigers. Jacob Hester from the SEC meetings. A little Saints talk as well. We'll be back tomorrow. Excited for a Wednesday show. We're talking a lot of baseball as we get ready for our regional. Matt's going to drive you home next. Have a great Tuesday. You can listen to the Hunt Palmer Show.